listening to the gathering.
As the president announced, there are here also students from some of the Venezuelan universities. That's something very important in these times, because for professors from the right, international right, it is very difficult in this day to give one class. It is very good for young people are listening to us, because as the president of the assembly, I say that because this is my second country. I can say that. As he said, it is very difficult. I want to start this ideas, the position that painfully is going to be reiterated from the first, the second, the president of the foreign minister, and the excellency, Mikaso, the teacher, and everything. We all are going to speak about the same language. I think that luckily, because we have consensus about this, and painfully, you can bore you, one of you who can hear new things. Maybe we're going to achieve it, maybe, but it is centered in everything. I would like to express above all my gratefulness for the invitation to this magnum event, and in 20 years of professor, I never have seen many lawmen just defending the international right. And sitting, I was remembering how proud would feel professor investigator from International Public Right de Venezuela, Fermín del Toro Jiménez. Together with him and under his leadership, we opened more than 10 years ago a master degree in Venezuela University. We have groups in different states. We were giving classes, he making extraordinary effort, and I liked a lot what the Bolivarian Venezuela of Venezuela published about him at the moment of his passing away. It changed the landscape of an integral Venezuela, a principled man, a brilliant academic, a defender of his country, but above all, a marching is going away. He was really Fermin, a big teacher of international law from Venezuela and all Latin America and the Caribbean. We from Cuba read most of his books, and there are some of the ideas that I'm going to share that will come from him. Because he was a defender of sovereignty and peace. Before starting my ideas, I would like to share something very personal. Some days ago, when I was coming out from Santiago de Cuba, where the East University is in Cuba, when I was coming, it was entering a vessel in the bay, a vessel that was coming from here, carrying cooperation and help. Because 2 weeks ago there was a terrible hurricane, Melissa, who erased the east part of Cuba. It was very beautiful and contrast. A vessel is entering at the bay bringing love, and as Commander-Chief Chavez said, love is paid back with love. That's why I had to be here, giving my opinion. And in contrast, there are another ship that are in the Caribbean Sea, then killing extrajudicially people, violating the international law. I start here. We are gathering here in a very serious moment for peace and security, also to the self-determination of our region. The growing deployment of USA Army in the Caribbean Sea presented as a league security operations or narco-traffic fight. In reality, it is an aggression with an imperial character that is hurting the juridical law. We all are the ones who guarantee it. These ideas to see the international from an international point of view, the illegality of this action, what implies this deployment to violate the international law in which are the violation to prohibit the threat and the use of force, the principle of equality, and to propose the proposal of a framework from since multilateralism, regional multilateralism, committed with the proclamation of the region as a peace zone. We should, in this context, to redesign tools from since the international law, diplomatic actions, to states from America Latina and Caribbean can develop and save their sovereignty. We are moved by the unbreakable defense of the Charter of the United States and the principles that have guided relations among states since the end of the Second World War. The Council, the Foreign Minister was saying that. That's why we are boarding. We are speaking about these violations specifically to the United Nations Charter and other international norms, the crucial role of multilateralism, and finally, some juridical actions that we have to boost. There are two that were exposed, and I will sum up other ones, and I would like that they will float over here, and I think that they will land in your hearts. The Caribbean region historically, it's true that in the last 10 years with a lot of people, but before it was scenery from some rivalry. We have to see the history. In these days, it's facing a new military escalade, and some politicals and academics they have called it an imperial threat. This dynamic not only is affecting stability in the region, but also constitute a challenge, a direct challenge, to the main things of international right. This deployment of U.S. has no ground in the contemporaneous right. Its nature is illegal, and it is in a framework of a doctrine of hegemony and control. Among the points to be highlighted, we can say the following ones. First, there is an absence of invitation and consensus in this deployment based on transparent agreement. The military presence, United States presence, it is international waters, but with a clear goal to projection of a power to the coast states when it's made without any kind of agreement, public agreement, or under pressures, economic pressures. The counseling cannot be said that is legitimate. This could be configured as a violation to the equality principle, and it hurts the sovereignty of a country with subject of international right. It is a coercion act. It is due to the presence of these warship, planes, and all military actives amidst the Caribbean states. It is an interference of our internal affairs. It looks for threatened sovereignty of governments, international alliance, and to dissuade political options that Washington consider not likely to their interests. This conduct violates the principle of no intervention that is written in Article 19 in the United Nations Charter and 25 slash in United Nations Assembly. It constitutes a threat to peace and security in the region. The militarization of a maritime space that for nature it is a peace zone and development constitutes a threat to regional security. It generates a spiral of unbelieving, and it makes the states just put resources to defense, and they could be incidents that could escalate to international conflicts. From the contemporary right, international right, it is a violation of the United Nations Charter. I would say that the Charter is the cutting edge of the international law. Action from the United States in the Caribbean constitute a violation, systematic violation of its most essential principles, and it's not new. There is a North American-based territory that has been, I would say, stolen from Cuba many years. For instance, Article number 2 is violated. The principle of sovereign equality. Without consultation with the regional mechanism and despising to the small countries in the Caribbean is a negation of this principle. United States is acting as if its power confers them a higher status, violating the jurisdiction of all states. However, they are not acting according to the Article 2, paragraph number 3, the obligation to solve pacifically controversies. The projection of military force is against the pacific solution of controversies. Instead of go to diplomatic or good offices, United States recurs to show the force as a foreign policy instrument, remembering that from 1945 there is no jus ad bellum, there is no right to war. It is not known by the empire. Of course, it doesn't know the 2.4 article, the prohibition that I have seen many times in here, to forbidding the use of force, and more than that, we cannot even to threat of using it. That is the nucleus, the core of San Francisco letter. The International Justice Court, according to the Nicaragua case against the United States in 1986, established firmly that not only the use of force is forbidden, but only to threaten to do it. The presence of carriers, naval drills close to coast of sovereign state in terms of the Article number 2 from the Charter also certificates the consultative opinion about the same court of using nuclear weapons in 1996, when it says that a legal threat exists if the use of force is illegal. Theoretically, they used to include force or threat to use the force or sanctions, unilateral sanctions. That is something that happened once and once again. With the express objectives to change, to have a change, socio-political change, and the private declaration that are saying the necessity of an armed intervention is a classic example of use of force. There are many examples of how they have used this method against many people and governments in the Caribbean and Latin America, and even a few days ago. On the other side, we have to acknowledge that no very time the same UN Charter has been used to has been used to develop force against other countries. United States used to justify its action under the umbrella of self-defense, but Article 51 is a strict exception to the forbidding and only is applied facing an attack, imminent or real. No states in the Caribbean have threatened or done any attack against the United States. That is why to invoke legitimate defense, to deploy forces in the Caribbean, it is something that has no ground, it is groundless. On the other side, they are also attempting against a principle of the international law, the equalities and sovereignty of all states. That principle, the second, it is a spine of this system. It implies that all states, in spite of their size or pop or power, they have the same rights in territorial integrity, independence, no intervention in their internal affairs. This declaration to cooperation and friendship among the states, according to the United Nations Charter from 1997, developed this principle. And they say that all state has the right to respect the personality of the other states, and that the territory of one state cannot be taken militarily or with coercive measure. It reinforces no intervention principle that constitutes and use coherent measure. No country has the right to intervene directly or indirectly, and whatsoever the motive is, in the internal affairs of another state. The action of a powerful state that wants to impose its will on the Caribbean states by means of sanctions violate this principle. The sovereignty of a Caribbean state is not negotiated and is not submitted to any kind of influence of any parents. So to take measures unilaterally condemned by many times by the United Nations, 1077, it constitutes a contradictory act against the sovereign equality because it tried to bend the volunty of a state by affixing it. More than the United Nations Charter, the international law movement, many of the actions also are not very well observed by the violating one. United States of America, one of them said, I highlighted following. Some of them were exposed before in here. I think that Foreign Minister also said, it is the Convention of the United Nations according to the right to the sea, 1944. 169 states that signed it up, a high number of United Nations. And though United States is not part, he never wants to commitment with all these things. Though United States is not part of this convention, many of its dispositions, and see this very well, reflect the international right on the theme that is objective on it. It don't take into account the Article 19, the innocent past. The past of warship must be innocent, or not prejudicial to peace, the good order or security of the state that is on the coast. A hostile deployment cannot be considered an innocent past. It was Article 88 that the exclusive zone to Pacific zones, the economic exclusive zone must be used only to peaceful things. Using military maneuvers is against this principle of international law. On the other side, violated Chapultepec Act is 1945 is violated. The treatment of inter-American treatment, that also it is an instrument in which United States credibility is low. It is they has been ignored by Washington, who is using this mechanism for their interests. The truth is that few nothing could be hoped from what the what we have to activate strongly is the regional multilateralism, the Latin American and Caribbean, facing this military escalade of United States in the Caribbean. Facing just the unilateral power of the North, the answer must be a collective one, firm and based on our own institutions. Facing all these asymmetric powers and threats, the regional multilateralism has emerged as a main force, promoting an international order with more justice. The Community of Latin American Countries, CELAC, as a representative forum of the 33 states in the region, without the presence of the potencies, extracontinental potencies, it is a space where we can build consensus and opinions. CELAC has stated in different occasions the commitment to peace and respect to the public international to political dialogue, the cooperation as tool to contrast external pressure. It's maybe the central platform for at least three proposals. First, to condemn the militarization in the Caribbean Sea. In some way, it was done some days ago in Colombia. But from a diplomatic way, we have to make more declaration diplomatically. Secondly, we reaffirm the peace zone, that this region is a peace zone. We have to defend it. We have to defend this proclama as Latin America and Caribbean as a peace zone. Third, to activate the dialogue mechanism to create a common position and to take a unified voice from Latin America and Caribbean to the United Nations. UNASUR, for instance, the South American Union, though actually it is weakened in the Defense Council, represented in its time an advance in the conceptualization of autonomous defense. It is important to revitalize this spirit to dissuade any kind of attempt to fracture the Latin American unity. The ALBA, as a mechanism based on solidarity and cooperation, must play an important role in articulating the resistance, diplomatic resistance, and denouncing systematically violations. It can help as a core of action politically defending the sovereignty. The integration scheme in Central America and CARICOM are main in this case. They have the states that are directly affected are members of this. We have to achieve to them to have a very courageous posture. I can take in this term because I'm academic, and I can say openly, and you can applaud these proposals. This mechanism, integrational mechanism, are to soften the external interference in they act in key stages. They reduce and their collective voice in international forums, they have a specific weight bigger than the individual ones. They are going to allow to contrast hegemonic actions. They are in essence the materialization, practical materialization of the principle of diversity unity to get the self-protection, the regional self-protection. Of all that stated, what actions, juridical actions, are we adventured to put on the air to go to fertile ground? Some diplomatic actions. First, to build a bloc diplomacy to achieve a select pursuit to face USA's. Interesting result some points of the conjoint joint declaration celebrated in Colombia last November the 9th. I invite you to read it. Above all, point number 8 and point number 9, there are some interesting proposals. Some of the action that we have to do. To mobilize in multilateral forums, for instance, in United Nations, proposal from the before one speaker about the respect of peace zone of Latin America and the Caribbean, and to forbid the threat of force, military force in international organizations from the United no aligned countries to reactivate this forum, to support, to combat the militarization in the Caribbean. Third, to make a diplomacy of people, to throw an international campaign saying the illegality of the acting of USA in the Caribbean. There is no peace without development, and there is no development without peace. To find that civil society of Latin America and the Caribbean connect with organization from the North American organization to mobilize against militarization in the Caribbean. As juridic actions, we can make a proposal. First, here I concede, to call the International Justice Court through any state of the region, to call the International Court about the deployment, unilateral deployment of USA coercive in regions that are declared as peace zones. Second, to check the possibility to establish, Council was to establish a resource in front of the International Court. According to this, military action or acts could be aggression crimes. It could be done. This is a concept that is defined in Rome Statutes. States can explore the possibility to present a communication to the prosecutors about aggression crime. It is complex, but to present it has a high political value of denouncing. Third, also to create an international justice panel that could be, this is the starting point, to establish an independent commission of experts in international law, as all the ones that are sitting in here, to make a detailed report a report for the violation as the ground document for all the next violation to come. Let's remember that the opinion, international, or the opinion of the expert, it is a source for the international law. According to the 30th article of the International Court of Justice, it has the value, it has weight, the opinion, our opinion. Number 4, we have also to strengthen the mechanism of regional controversies to, to, to deal with conflict, showing that the region have their own tools and they don't need from teaching from other countries. As a final idea, I would like to that the battle that we are facing is not only a political one. It is above all things a juridical battle, an ethic battle. It is the defense that civilization facing to the barbary, the law of the strongest one, the deployment the military deployment of USA in the Caribbean is something anachronic in the 21st century, something from another epoch that we thought it was superated. We have identified precisely the violation to the charter, to the right of the sea, to the principle of non-intervention. We had the precedents of Nicaragua against USA. What we need now, it is the political volunteer, moral, juridical, and the knowledge of all of you to mobilize and to win this battle for our people. The road is the multilateralism, the union, and the use of the tools that the international right is given from selecting the international court. We have many mechanisms, peaceful mechanisms to defend our sovereignty. As jurists of Latin America and the Caribbean and all the world, we have a historical duty to be the voice of the law facing the force, reason facing intimidation, peace facing aggression. All these ideas must not be the speech, but a starting point to a coordination and firm action to defend our right to exist as sovereign and peace countries, to reach development of all our countries. Let's remember Chavez when he made a proposal to refound the United Nations. Let's work all together to refound the international law. Thank you very much.
Those were the words of Freder Santana, Vice President of the Cuban Society of Public International Law. He was highlighting as other lawmakers and legal experts gathering here in Caracas in this international meeting of law experts regarding the aggressions of the U.S. in the Caribbean, the extrajudicial executions that have been pointed out by different experts, also from the UN. In this case, he was highlighting, for example, the illegal essence of that military deployment in the Caribbean made by the United States on different accounts and the necessity to strengthen the international coordination in the international arena. Let's continue to listen to the President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez.
This activity of this meeting, who are defending the international right, we were saying to Claudia Roca for her what she said, her proposal, that cannot fall in open sacks, but be part of the conclusion of this event at the closure. And when they redacted this document that we had to present to all of you, to Dr. Frei Santana also, for his reflections, very deep one, according to the international situation of the international law and the right of the people that live in this America and the Caribbean Sea. I really appreciate the words from the President of the Supreme, Ivan Hill, our Foreign Minister, and I think it is very well the way that we are starting this event that is going to take another activities beyond the word, beyond to call us to be more united. We were hearing Claudia Frei. I was remembering that poem that is considered as the most political poem from Ruben Dario, who was always writing to love flowers, and because of the indignation that he had when he was called the Hispanic American, he wrote back to Roosevelt, and we remember from our time the first letter that Ruben Dario said to the United States, "You are the United States, you are the future invader." From the naive America that is praying to Jesus Christ, that still speaks in Spanish and that still have indigenous blood. We are the America that are proud of our indigenous blood that speak Spanish, but maybe in French and on other languages, mainly in the Caribbean zone. Still we pray to our gods. Only one thing we have lost since Ruben Dario wrote this poem. After decades of invasions and military aggressions, from state coups, from dictatorship, we have lost, unfortunately, the naive. Now, let's develop this event in the time to come. We are very proud of all of you. We make the first pause and keep up enjoying this country that is something like you.
Address this first stage of this gathering of legal experts in Caracas. Let's recall that legal experts, lawmakers from across the Americas were gathering in Caracas in order to address the legal repercussions to international law of what we've been seeing in the face of these ongoing aggressions and threats from the United States to the region in general, to Venezuela in particular. Many of them have addressed the extrajudicial killings that have been taking place, over 70 deaths in the Caribbean on the past